Welcome to Mummas. I'm Silver, your host, and this is where we get real about parenting, the beautiful, the messy, and everything in between. No perfect answers here, just a space to be yourself, connect, and find some comfort in the shared experience of it all. So grab your matcha, settle in, and let's talk.
Mama.
Okie dokie. There's going to be a lot of that this episode because I thought in my best efforts to be as authentic as possible, I'm sick. I have bronchitis and pink eye in both my eyes. And if you just went, ugh. Yeah, I know. Same. We've got our matcha going as usual. Peppermint matcha latte in my kind of go-to favorite cup. It's by Pot of Joie or Joey. Oh my gosh, if I'm saying it wrong. Joie. I think it's Joie. Anyways, this is my second matcha of the day. I am homesick. I'm off work right now. I just figured to save myself some grief, I would record right now. It's also just a lot easier for me to record when I don't have to get my husband to take my daughter out or just around. I'd rather spend my weekends, which is when I usually record, hanging out with my family rather than recording because they have to go because there's no way I can record while my daughter is here because she is like me, very loud and I love it, but it's not conducive for recording an episode. Here we are on a sick day and we're going to be talking about just that. So we're going to be talking about a little survival guide for sick days for mamas and kiddos. I can tell you firsthand, it sucks being sick as a mom. It's just is the worst thing ever. I don't like being sick in general. I never ever used to get sick. And then I had a child and everyone warned me. They're for the next 2 years, you're just going to be sick. And I'm I never get sick. That's not going to be me. I have the best immune system. And then here we are. I think I got sick when I was pregnant and I remember how scared I was because I actually ended up getting COVID. I remember I was pretty newly pregnant. I think I was only 3 months along or something. Yeah, I was 3 or 4 months pregnant when I got COVID. And I remember I called our nurse hotline, which is 811. Great service. Obviously, most of the time overloaded. You're looking at a pretty lengthy wait time. But once you do get to someone, it is pretty good. I've only had this one really negative experience with them. But I just want to preface that I've only had one negative experience. And I think that is such a good service. And I am so grateful to have it. So I don't want this experience to deter anyone. I spoke to this gentleman and I told him I had COVID. I told him that I was recently pregnant and he was oh, interesting. And I was yeah, I'm really scared. Should I be doing something? Should I be worried about my baby and whatever? And then he's oh, let me look into this. So he starts looking something up on whatever, I don't know, online. I don't know if they have a special directory. He was oh, this is really bad. The effects that COVID can have on pregnancies this far along. And he's oh, you should go to the hospital and make sure that your baby is okay and blah blah blah. And I was oh my god, what do you mean? I'm a newly pregnant person freaking out. And he was yeah, this is really not good. He's I suggest you go to the hospital immediately. And I was okay, I'm sick, I don't feel good, I don't want to be hanging out in a hospital all day and all night. Oh, it's the only way, I don't know what they're going to be able to do for your baby. It freaked me right out. Remember I called my mom and my sister is usually pretty good at finding the facts. She's a pretty smart cookie. So she starts looking things up. She's no, honestly, there shouldn't really be any problems or anything like that. She was looking into it for me and she basically said that there wasn't anything really that serious. There might just be something with growth that they want to monitor. So of course I'm freaking out, having a total panic attack. And my husband had COVID at that time too. So we had to be in separate rooms even though we both had COVID, but I don't know, we just wanted to be extra safe. So he slept in the second bedroom, which is now my daughter's room, and I was by myself, newly pregnant, sad, and he was in his little area and he was really sick. I tested positive, but I wasn't that I didn't feel that sick. So I remember I had to do the bulk of a lot of things. I was pregnant and he did what he could, but honestly we just locked him away and stayed away from each other. So it was really hard being pregnant with COVID. And then I wasn't sick again until I think she was 4 months old. It's a whole year later. And I just had a cold, but it was the hardest thing ever because when you become a mom, there's no stopping. You just have to get up and can take care of your kid. Hopefully you can have help and like you have support and everything like that. But it's hard, man. So we're going to talk about that today. But just like a little check-in, we did Santa Claus pictures the other day. We're doing Santa. Like Santa has been a thing in my family. And like I actually quite like Santa. I don't know why. When we took my daughter for her Santa pictures last year, she was like 2 months old. But it was really important to my dad, so grandpa, that we got Christmas photos. I didn't even think about it. Like I was 2 months postpartum and I didn't even think about taking my daughter to get Santa photos. Like she was just a little blob of a baby. He insisted. So I was like, all right, Dad, like just for you, we'll go and do this. It was so cute. We went with Jem and her family and with her son and everything. And it was such a cute little experience, but we got pictures really, really late because it was last minute. And what I didn't know, because like I haven't done Christmas photos or Santa Claus photos for almost like 20 something years, that nowadays you book an appointment. So I didn't do that. And I thought, oh, you just walk in. But then I wasn't going to wait in those insanely long lines just to get a photo with my newborn. Like it just wasn't feasible or practical for us at the time. So we did book an appointment. It was the last appointment we could get locally. And no hate to the Santa, but like he was a little crusty. Like he wasn't like my Santa growing up, who my sister and I were just talking about, that he must be dead now. And that makes me so sad. So we're like, no, he's not dead. He's just living at the North Pole. But he would be like 114 at this point, so that motherfucker's probably dead. It would be so sad. I loved our Santa. Our Santa, like he looked like a Santa. Like he was chunky and he had like the best beard, like the kindest eyes, and it's really weird to say, but he had the best breath. And that might sound very odd and gross, I know, but I remember the smell of his breath because he kind of smelled like apples. Like I don't know if he just ate a lot of apples. And I also do know we got an apple after seeing Santa. Like we were given an apple, but he just had the best breath. And I miss him. Like I was really sad that it was no longer like socially acceptable for me to go see Santa. And like I'm not like a Christmas person. Like I like the vibe of it. I like the family camaraderie of it. I think growing up, Christmas was always a little bit stressful for my family, and like not in a bad way, but we had like lots of Christmas events that we would go to or host. And so Christmas to me was like a lot of wonderful family time, but the bulk of it was like making sure the presents were done and like everything was decorated, everything was clean. So like, and my mom doesn't love Christmas that much either. She always made Christmas extremely special and wonderful and beautiful for us. Like I think I am trying to learn to be a little bit more lax about Christmas because I don't want it to be stressful. And I love how we do Christmas now in our more adult years, because we just have like hot pot or we do raclette and we just do things that are like really easy. So there's not a ton of cooking or prep, and like obviously like, everything is still beautiful. Like my mom always hosted and hosts these like beautiful dinner parties, and we got to use like the special dining room, the special living room in my parents' house. So like that was always really exciting and I really liked that. I think I am slowly trying to find like the magic of Christmas, especially now having a child. My mom now says apparently we're too old for stockings, which I think is rude, because I saw a family that is older than me and the mom and the dad also get a stocking and Santa goes see them. So I feel like I should still have Santa. I'm not trying to make myself seem like I don't know, like the Disney adult of Christmas, because like I'm just not. Otherwise I would own that. But I like Christmas to an extent, but for some reason I really like Santa. Last year when I went and met Krusty Santa, I was really disappointed because like it was really obvious that it was like a man named Steve or something who just dresses up like Santa. And like he had a real beard and everything like that, and he was like an older gentleman, so it wasn't like just, I don't know, some dad named Mark who threw on a costume and a beard. I was kind of disappointed because when I walked in, he was like, oh, like I have a niece that's this old and whatever, like who's so lovely and nice and whatever, but there was no act of Santa. So I was like so excited, but I didn't realize that until I realized how disappointed I was that he was just like a regular regular guy. So this year I vetted the Santas and I was like looking up all the like Instagram pictures of like different Santas. I really wanted to take her to see, it was called Tropical Santa. Historically, from what I could see, it was an Asian Santa. And I thought that would be really cool because like our family's Asian and my daughter is mostly Asian. So I just thought it would be cool to have Asian Santa for her. Like how different and how cool. I'm going to cut it out obviously, but I'm stopping a lot to cough. So just bear with me and bear with my sexy melodic voice. I just wanted her to have Asian Santa that they were calling Tropical Santa, which I think they were just calling Tropical Santa because they can't say Asian ethnic Oriental Santa because that's not PC. And if they did say like Oriental Santa, I think I'd be like, excuse me? Asian Santa's gone and they've made Tropical Santa like an actual tropical Santa. So he's just like wearing board shorts and I'm like, okay, that doesn't super do it for me. But it's still like a cool concept. Like I like the offerings of different Santas. But anyway, I was looking at all these different Santas and then I found one and they had an appointment on a Sunday. So it kind of worked out perfectly and we took my daughter to see Santa and I like front loaded her with, we're going to go see Santa. We're going to sit on his lap. This is the only man, stranger man that you should be okay with sitting on his lap without like your consent or my consent or whatever. I was just really going for it so that she was ready and I would like show her pictures of Santa and I was like, we're going to say this is Santa, this is this, and like she's only almost 14 months old, so like I don't know how much of that she understood or how much of that actually helped. I made sure like I planned it kind of accordingly and I did put a little thing on my Instagram about things that can help with Santa because I know Santa pictures can be really stressful and traumatizing and I didn't want to traumatize her. I have even friends now that are afraid of Santa as adults because of their experiences as children. So I really didn't want her to be traumatized. So I would tell her where we're going and whatever. And I was like, this is your outfit that you're wearing to go see Santa. Sit on that. So whatever. So then we got there. We were like 20 minutes late because parking was insane because we did it the weekend before like Cyber Monday and it was like Black Friday weekend, which I didn't even think about, but it was bananas. After like the stress of just getting there and parking, they were so nice. Like the elves were so helpful and so nice and made me feel really reassured and didn't make me feel bad about being late at all. And like we tried calling, but anyway, it was beautiful. We had a wonderful experience and the Santa was a Santa. Like he wasn't a man named Steve or Mark or whoever. He was Santa. So when I saw him and he like walked, and when we walked in to take photos with him, he was like, oh, and he like knew my daughter's name and he's like, the elves and I were just talking about you, but this is our first time meeting. Nice to meet you. I'm Santa and whatever. And I was like, oh my god, it's Santa. Like I was really happy and really excited that he like didn't drop the bit just because like my daughter is only 14 months old. He didn't just try to like talk to us. I really liked it. So she did amazing. Not a single tear. She was very shy, which is fine, but it's funny to see her shy because she's not a shy gal. She's actually overly social. Which is so weird for me because I'm not that friendly. So she's very friendly. Yeah, but she's a little bit shy with Santa, which was so cute. We took a picture with her, which like I don't love. I just feel like it looks so awkward. It's cute. It's sweet. It's good to share with family. So we took a family photo and then Santa was like, oh, do we want to take a picture just the two of us? Like, what do you think? And like addressing her. He's like, do you think you're okay with that? And he's like, Mom, do you think you're okay with that? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so I was like, okay, baby, like you're going to sit on Santa's lap. Mommy will be right here. And like she did so great. She was a little bit nervous. She like reached out for me. And if she didn't like it, I was just going to take her. I was just like, are you okay? We're just going to take a quick photo and then you come to mommy. And then she kind of settled and she was like putting her hands and I was like, no, just clasp your hands together. Like I didn't say clasp, but I was like, oh, hands down, baby. And she like clasped her hands together and she was just sitting there. She looked so serious. I love it because she's not smiling, but she looks so serious. It was so cute. It's the cutest little photo. I'm so happy with how they turned out. Everyone was so lovely. And I think that like makes a huge difference in finding like a good place to take your Santa photos. I think good people and good helpers and good elves make a huge difference. So yeah, we did great. My husband and I are generally fairly calm people. Like I'm not the calmest person in general, but like we just try to stay very calm. And I think that helped my daughter daughter feel a little bit more calm. So yeah, we had a great little time. So I'm very happy we got those done. And yeah, if you're watching the video version of this, usually I try to like look a little bit nice for these and put on some makeup. Like luckily I have lash extensions, so that makes my life a lot easier. But I look a little bit crusty dusty, and that's just me in my authentic self at this time, because that's how I feel. I feel rather crusty dusty and not in a cute way. I'm also on my second matcha of the day. In terms of like recommendations, I don't have a ton. We've just been watching some movies that I really like. Like I love the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, so we're watching that, and we started doing a like rewatch of Parks and Rec. So it kind of goes along with like our casual whatever shows. And there's this new show which I think is called St. Dennis like Medical or something, but it's essentially a lot of the cast from Superstore, which I really like, but like a medical sitcom. So we're gonna start watching that. Apparently it's really good, so I think we're gonna give that a go tonight. But otherwise I don't have a ton of recommendations. But yeah, so let's get into today's episode. I do want to say that like I'm talking about like general sickness, like colds or flu or COVID, things like that. I'm not talking about the more serious illnesses, which is something that like I just feel like at this time I can't super speak on, because I, knock on wood, have not had to experience that as a mother, and I'm hoping I never do. That being said, if that's something that you do want me to talk about, I'm happy to look into resources, and maybe if I can find someone who's gone through that experience, I would love to be able to share that with you. But just firsthand, I'm talking about like common colds and like general sickness that I think we all experience during the like fall and winter times, especially with going back to school and daycare and everything like that. So yeah, I do want to acknowledge that like sickness is hard on any family. I can't imagine being a single mom without support and being sick. You guys are the real rock stars out here. So we'll start out first by talking about managing yourself while you're sick. This is gonna sound like a huge eye roll, and I can already hear and see all the eye rolls from the moms, but it's so important right now, even though it's so hard, to work on and maintain your self-care practice. I know that will look different for everyone, and it will look different through every season or every experience that everyone's in, but to try to prioritize rest as self-care as much as possible. Going to bed earlier. I went to bed last night at 9:30, which is wild for me. Like I pretty much never go to bed before like 11:30, which is not good for me, and I honestly think it might be a big reason why I keep getting sick, because I don't rest enough. I saw this thing recently that said your body is not betraying you, it's trying to communicate with you, and it needs you to listen. So I was trying to think, because I felt really betrayed by my body, and I always do whenever I'm not feeling well, and I was like, okay, what are you trying to communicate with me? Like, what do you want? And I think it wants more rest, and so it's forcing me to rest. And of course I say that as I'm recording a podcast, but I promise I'm gonna rest for the rest of this week after this. I just really want to get this done, and I'm trying to prioritize rest by prioritizing things that I need to do so that I can rest whenever possible. If you can delegate tasks to your partner, to family, or to friends, or if you're in the financial situation where you can outsource help. We budget cleaners into our life, and yes, it is expensive, and it's a huge luxury that we make sure that we can afford, because at this time in my life, especially being sick, like there's no way I can clean, and I just find that incredibly helpful, because I really like to have a really clean space, and we just do what we can so that we can budget having someone come in and clean every couple of weeks or once a month, just to get that extra help when we need it. Because especially being sick, they came yesterday, and to come home sick to a clean space made a huge difference for me, and I don't feel that like overwhelmed. So if you're in a financial space to be able to afford something like that, or if even you have like the best buddies out there, like I have some friends I know would come over and help me clean, or just clean for me, and I just feed them, or nothing. Like I have friendships that I could do that, even though I would do that with Jem, and then she left me. So thanks for that. Something I did at the beginning of last month is I meal prep freezable soup. So I guess all soup is freezable, but freezable meals. I purchased these really great portion dividers for freezing your meals. And basically it looks like giant ice cube trays so that each like little section is a portion of food. So I made Ayeko soup, which has like potatoes, chicken, garlic, onion, leeks, like a lot of really good, it has a lot of really good sick soup things that you would really enjoy while you're not feeling well. And I froze it last month. So today I came home and I was like, oh, I really want soup. And I'm trying really hard to save money right now because like it's Christmas and like you always kind of go over budget or spend a little bit more than you might want to during that time. And I think just especially the winter months, like just taking it easy, like treating yourself a little bit more. I try to budget for that so that I can just enjoy the winter a little bit more, especially if I am struggling with seasonal affective disorder and like life gets busy. So having like a little stash of easy to prepare meals really came in clutch today, and I just heated up that Ayeko soup. It does involve like having the time and having the means and resources and energy to prep, but it did really come in clutch so that I could just have a whole meal and I didn't have to order out and I didn't have to cook anything. So that was really easy. In terms of just surviving the day, hydration is so incredibly important. Teas are really great, but teas also can be a diuretic, which means they make you pee. So just water, having tons of liquids around, electrolyte drinks, like coconut water is amazing, or just like I have these organics electrolyte that I can put in my water, which I really like to do. Quick fixes for easy meals, as we just talked about, freezer meals or eating out when you need to. Just allow yourself that grace to do so. Creating a cozy setup for yourself. So pillows, blankets, quiet activities for your kids nearby. Using that screen time as a tool rather than a parent, but just sometimes like sitting down, watching a movie with your kid, if they will sit for that, which mine won't, can be super helpful. So just doing what you can and like prioritizing yourself and like other things just going on the back burner until you're feeling better, which I know can be so hard as a mom. Like the laundry still has to get done. Like the kids still have to get bathed. You still have to cook meals for them. All that stuff. It's hard. Like garbage needs to be taken out. But if you can just try to get that stuff done when you can and so that you have the opportunity to rest. That's why I also think it's so important to have a job where you get like sick time or like a good amount of sick time. I think in BC at least we're allotted 5 days already for sick time, but like right now I'm going on like 2 weeks almost of being off sick, and luckily my job is gracious enough to support me with that, because even coming back from mat leave, technically I've already used up my sick time, because when I started back at work I got a bacterial gut infection, and so I was like so sick, and so I'm out of sick time, but like luckily they've been gracious enough to support me with that. I think it says a lot for where you work, and I know there's some jobs, like especially like government jobs, you can have like unlimited sick leave, and I think that it's really important when you are looking into jobs or looking for a career and you want kids to kind of think about that and look into that, because it's always really hard when you don't have that sick leave and you're just at home suffering, stressing about not having any money coming in because you're off, and like maybe going back to work when you are really sick because you feel like you have to, and then not being able to recover and having to go off anyway. Go off sick when you can. Talk to your doctor too about getting a sick note. A lot of doctors nowadays, and I think especially in BC where I live, tell you most of the time that your employer is not allowed to ask for a sick note, and I believe that is true. However, like I still, if my doctor is able to do so and like it's willing and has the time to write me one, I still to have one just in case. I don't know, I get really anxious when I go off sick, even if my company is really lovely about it. So that's always something you can do. Otherwise, if you go online, there's literally a posting about it, and they say like you are not allowed to ask for sick notes, so because it overloads our doctors. Yeah, just something to consider. I always like to have one, but I do understand I don't want to take up my doctor's time, but she offered, so I accepted. Okay, so let's talk about handling your sick sick kids. So recognizing the early signs of sickness in children, I feel like if you're a mom, you just know when your kids are sick. Like I noticed with my daughter, she gets like extra kind of like cozy and like she's a very active gal. So if all of a sudden she's like cuddly and quiet and slow, and also it always affects her sleep. And I think any mom will tell you, like, you kind of just know like something's off with your kid before it even happens. And like my daughter got pink eye last week, which is why I have pink eye, because it's going around her daycare. So that's lovely. And before she even had any signs of like redness or discharge in her eye, I noticed that she was falling asleep while breastfeeding in the morning, which is really odd. So I just had this like, something is off with you. I don't know what it is, but something's off. So recognizing those signs, it can really be beneficial, and just really paying attention to your kid. And like if they do go to daycare, like getting that information from your daycare of like how's she doing. And like my daycare is so fucking amazing that like immediately they're like, hey, something's wrong with your daughter. Like she's got like kind of goopy eyes. And I was like, oh, okay. And luckily I chose my location of my daycare and my work so that I could get to her literally within like under half an hour. So luckily she, FYI, she ended up having viral pink eye and not bacterial. So she never actually ended up needing drops. So just with like the pink eye, which is also something I made a post about on my Instagram, because like I wasn't sure what to do because I've never had pink eye. I think I never even had it when I was a kid. Maybe I did, but my mom and I can't remember. You just like warm cloth, keep it clean, and like make sure she just rests and takes it easy and tries to keep her hands out of her eyes. But yeah, of course she just like comes up to me and like rubs her face in my eyeballs. So it was hard for me not to get it, but I think if you want to be a little bit more diligent, like having it so they're not rubbing their faces in your face. But I don't know. My daughter was sick. I wanted to love her. So the other great thing to do to have on hand at all times is like a sick day kit for your kids. So that is like a thermometer, and making sure you have the appropriate thermometer for their age and everything. Like I have one that goes from newborn to adults, that's just in the ear, but I also have the one that's 3-in-1 that I got for her when she was like a baby, because, which she's still a baby, but she was like a baby, and it's under the tongue, armpit, and rectal. So rectal thermometers, honestly, especially for a younger age, is the most accurate. It's obviously not the most comfortable, but honestly, when I did it, my daughter didn't really seem to mind. I think it was just like the holding still, which was the issue for babies. But rectal thermometers are the best for babies, especially when they're younger. Just make sure you have like an alcohol swab as well, so that you can clean it really well each time. And like I know that it's a 3-in-1, but I only use that for thermometer for if I need to do it rectally for her, because I don't know, I just want to put it like in her mouth after it being in her butt, even if I cleaned it really well. But anyway, electrolyte drinks for kids, soft tissues for them. I use like a soft muslin cloth, little like baby cloths, and that works really well. And I just keep it warm. And just like their comfort items, like my daughter has like her stuffies. She has this little Jellycat dragon she really likes, and this Jellycat cow. She has her levies that she sleeps with that are little cows. So we just make sure she has all those things that she likes, and just keeping her happy. It's sick time. It's a sick day. Like, what do you like when you're sick? Like, I really like sugar when I'm sick. So just making sure that you have the things that the babies like, because they want to be comforted as much as you want to be comforted. Entertainment options like books, movies, puzzles, things like that, like their favorite movies. My daughter doesn't watch a ton of TV. She does like Miss Rachel, and she really likes this little Disney short that is, I think it's called Pepper, and it's this little bird like is trying to figure out how to get clams to eat for the first time, and she really likes that. So we'll watch that like on loop, and she'll actually watch that, and it's like really low stimulation. We actually, because she wasn't feeling well, we watched Charlie Brown Christmas. I really like the low stim things for her, and there's like tons you can look up per age group. So right now Charlie Brown Christmas is so low stim, and she really likes that. And then just balancing their care with your need to rest. My daughter's still breastfeeding, and I find if I lay down on the couch, she will just come breastfeed and cuddle with me and just chill. It's like the easiest thing ever. But like obviously just doing whatever you can that you know will get your kid to kind of chill out so that you can chill out makes a huge difference for you. Also encouraging hydration and nutrition for your sick little ones, and just making sure that they do have that intake. I find like my daughter daughter last week when she was not feeling well, she didn't want to eat as much. So I just like more breastfeeding, more like pouches. I find she'll always eat a pouch even if she's not feeling great. So just making sure they're still getting enough nutrition and whatever you can get in them so that they can have as much energy to recover as possible. And then when to call the doctor. I like to call the doctor or go to the doctor as soon as my kid's feeling sick because she is still quite young, and it just makes me a little bit nervous. So as soon as I feel like she needs to see a doctor for her cold, if she has like a cough that I find concerning, or like for pink eye, just to get that confirmed and to see if I needed any like prescriptions or anything for that. But usually a good rule of thumb is if they have a persistent fever, unusual symptoms, or if they seem distressed. Or another thing that I like to do is symptom tracking, and there's like different apps that you can use for that. I just use the Huckleberry app because it has a built-in function. I really like that app, especially at the beginning, like learning like nap windows and everything like that was really great. And Jeb actually got us a prescription, a subscription for the year for the premium. And it was such a good idea. If anybody's having a baby and you want to get them something, a Huckleberry subscription is amazing. So within that app, like you can keep track of like the medications and the temperatures. This is not a sponsorship, but I wish it was, maybe one day. And yeah, just to keep track of like when you do give any kind of medication, because there's obviously recommended dosages and like how many hours apart. So just so you can keep track, or just writing it down on a piece of paper, that's great too. So keeping track of times, temperatures, and what kind of medication was given, especially if there's like two of you. Like if I am sick and I just gave my daughter Tylenol, then I went and had a nap, and my husband took over and he's like, oh, like maybe I should go for some Tylenol, then he will know not to or when to give it to her. And then just to trust your intuition as a parent. I think it can be really hard, especially those of us who have OCD or anxiety, to have a lot of health anxiety revolving our children, and just like being okay with that. It's always better to be safe than sorry. And if you are really struggling with the health of your child or your anxiety with it, talking to someone about that, talking to other moms, or talking to your doctor about like the criteria of when it is time to panic, I found that really helpful. I remember when I took my daughter to the doctor for the first time because she wasn't feeling well, I remember like apologizing a lot and just saying like, I'm sorry if I'm overreacting. And like, luckily I do have a lovely GP, and she was like, no, you're not overreacting. You're a mom. This is what it's like to be a mom and to be worried about your kids. It's a very normal reaction. This is like the threshold of when you should be concerned, such as like, high temperatures or unusual symptoms or like different colored discharge or behavior or anything like that. And like, we've had to have a lot of doctor's visits and hospital visits, especially because my daughter has allergies and she would have like these reactions. And I remember like there would be times where I'm like, don't call 911 again. You're gonna be labeled as this freak mom or like this mom with like Munchausen's by proxy or something, because I'm always like, my child, but I'm like, I really don't want any attention because of this. So I always try to remind myself that like, I'm a mom. It's okay to be concerned about my child's health. Like my child's health is important. And once it hits like this instinct where I'm like, okay, it's not okay anymore. It's time to go to the doctor. It's time to call 911. And I just listen to that. So listen to your intuition. And like the worst that can happen is you go to the doctor and they say, oh, it's okay. You didn't need to bring her in for this. And worst case scenario, you waste a bit of time. Hopefully you don't waste a ton of time or a lot of money. Luckily for us, that's why we have free services like 811. And you can talk to a doctor or a nurse or a pharmacist or anything, and they can kind of guide you. Like when I was really sick last month with my gut infection, I called 811 and I kind of said like, these are my symptoms. Like mind you, I was on hold for an hour and a half and just laid there beside the phone in bed. They said to me like, okay, this sounds a bit serious. I'm going to get you to see a doctor right now. And I spoke to a doctor on the phone, and it was that simple. So I know that our healthcare system is not perfect. I am nowhere saying that. I don't know where it does have like that amazing or perfect healthcare. I do know like just because of personal experience, like in Korea, things are really fast and quick, not that expensive either. I know here like that we do shit on our healthcare a lot. Like I am grateful that it is included for us through MSP, and it's like we have free universal healthcare, and I'm very grateful for that. But that does come with issues and like not having enough resources or people or space to serve of our population. So it's not perfect, but I am so grateful for it in general that I can talk to a nurse, and even though it's an hour and a half wait, that I can then talk to a doctor within like 15 minutes after speaking to a nurse. And I think that we do our best, and I am grateful for it. And I've had a lot of experience with family members who have had cancer, who it was caught early and removed early and was life-saving. So I do have a lot of gratitude towards our healthcare, even though it's not perfect. But yeah, I think that I'm just very grateful for it. In terms of emotional challenges and overcoming guilt, especially as a mom, I think that it's so hard to not feel like we have to do it all the time. And when we're not feeling well and when we're sick, like, we don't have to do it all. Just do what you can. Like, adopting that philosophy of good enough instead of perfect, especially when you're sick, I think is so necessary to have that perspective shift, because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself crazy. And like, it's the same thing of like, you're not relaxing if you feel guilty about it. You're not resting. You're not recovering if you're feeling guilty about it. Like, when the mind is still so preoccupied with other things instead of healing and rest, it won't help you at all. It won't help you recover as quickly as you want to. So, in fact, the most productive thing that you can do for yourself is rest and to remove yourself from that guilt. It's really hard. And I want to acknowledge that, because like, I'm not saying it's easy. I was doing that today. I was running around cleaning things up and putting laundry on and everything, because I want everything to be done so that when my daughter and my husband come home, that everything is done and perfect and whatever. And I'm like, no, I need to rest. So I will be resting once I'm done. Taking care of yourself. And I keep seeing like these little Pinterest quotes, of course, as I always do. And it says like, taking care of yourself is taking care of your kids. Like, it is taking care of your family. And it's just a trickle down effect. And if you're like at the top of it and you're not doing well, it'll trickle down and affect your whole family and your kid and everything. So prioritizing yourself, taking care of yourself, and leaning on others for support when needed can really, really make a huge difference in your recovery. In terms of like prevention and building up resilience, like, we're just going to get sick. Like, it happens. And I try to remind myself that, because I try to be really, really great about making sure I'm healthy and taking precautions, but like, it happens. Kids go to school. Kids are gross. Like, kids are so gross. They put everything in our mouth. They share toys, everything. Like, there's only so much you can do, but regular hand washing, getting adequate sleep, which like, haha, we're mothers. Like, we have children. That's so impossible, but like, just doing what you can, having balanced nutrition, and trying to like do anything you can to strengthen your immune system. So taking your vitamins and minerals, your probiotics, getting outside enough, which again, like, haha, we're moms. But some practical sick day tools: thermometer, humidifiers are amazing, electrolytes, having a medication on hand. So like, I always have baby or children's Tylenol, and then when they're a bit older, they can have Advil as well. Having saline and nasal sprays for congestion, those little nose suckers that kids hate, cough syrups that are child friendly for when they can have that. Like, just make sure you're looking into when it's recommended for your kids to have it, because sometimes they're a little bit too young. Creating yourself like a little sick day basket. Like, we all have our like diaper caddies. Having like a little sick thing that you can create, which is so extra, but like, I find it's so much easier to have on hand and just like whip it out. And I have like a pre-assembled little thing with like tissues, like cloths, trash bags, hand sanitizer, lip balm, and a small blanket or something like that. Just like having a little sick vibe. And especially if you have a sick friend with kids, like dropping off a little sick day basket. So lovely of you if you could do that. Meal service delivery, like apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, just making things easier for yourself. And then, as we previously mentioned, comfort stuff for your kids. So stuffed animals, favorite blankets, cozy pajamas, getting in your favorite pajamas when you're sick. Life changing. And then in terms of tracking and managing your symptoms, we did talk about the Huckleberry app, but there are also apps that are symptom trackers like Care Clinic and then Baby Tracker, which I've heard are really good. There's also like just keeping it on a piece of paper is great, but just any printable log, I'm sure you can find it on Google or on Pinterest, just to make things easier for you so that you can have like a simple kind of chart notes for your symptoms, medications, and any advice from the doctor that you want to keep track of. And also having reminder tools of like when it's time to take another medication. I try to stay really on top of taking my medication while I'm sick before I need it again. For example, if I take an Advil at like 9 o'clock and then the next time I can have one is 6 hours later, like I'll set that alarm so that when it's time, it'll just go off and then I can take it and I don't have to experience like the headache or pain. Like I just stay on top of it. And then entertainment and distractions. So streaming services are also really great. I think all of us have streaming services and all of us have been sucked into that by now. Audiobooks are also really great, or podcasts like this when you're feeling sick and you just need a little bit support. And then having like those quiet activities, even for yourself. So like coloring supplies, painting supplies, puzzles, sticker books, things like that. And just like trying to have calming and relaxing music going on, things that you kind of set the vibe. Like I always say, make it a mood, make it a vibe. And it's like, okay, well, I'm sick. I don't want to think about making it a vibe, but I just find my space for me super reflects how I feel internally. So making my space a vibe and having like a cute little sick moment can make a world of a difference. Obviously, if you don't have the time, energy, or interest in doing that, don't do it. Just do what you can. Some other doctor and healthcare resources, at least in Canada, we have telehealth called Maple, and then Teledoc Health for virtual doctor's appointments. I actually just used that the other day to have a phone call with a doctor, and it was really great. They ended up telling me I need to see a doctor in person because they wanted to listen to my lungs, which is fine. At least I had that guidance of like, okay, you should go in. And then hotlines of it, as I've mentioned. So we have 811, and then you can also call Poison Control for medication questions. They also, through 811, have pharmacists that you can talk to about that as well. Reliable websites and information for caring for kids if you want to look into it, like Mayo Clinic and Healthline for symptom checkers is great. Caring for Kids from the Canadian Pediatric Society is also really great. And then going and researching your local pediatric urgent care clinic, also really great. I know walk-in clinics are not what they used to be kind of since COVID. Like they're literally not walk-in anymore. It's still like you can walk in as long as you have an appointment. Like it makes no sense. But just looking into that so you're not wasting your time. Immune boosting and prevention. So vitamins and supplements that we talked about. C, D is really great. Having a probiotic is really wonderful, but obviously consult your doctor first. And just having on hand like your disinfecting wipes or your sprays that are kid friendly, to have those on hand all the time can really help prevent spreading illness. And then for kids, like my daughter loves washing her hands. Even to avoid bedtime, she'll be like, wash hands. Like she'll sign to wash her hands. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's really easy for her to get her to wash her hands. But if you don't have a kid that likes to wash their hands, like having fun soaps, like making hand washing fun, singing, or like fun kid friendly hand sanitizers can be a really big thing. And then in terms of emotional support, I haven't used it honestly, but I've been told to use it. The Peanut app, and my friend Jem used to use that, and it just helps you connect with local moms and just to commiserate together, because being sick and having a kid that's sick is like, it can be so isolating and so lonely. Other Facebook groups, like I really like the Gentle Parenting Facebook group. I find that that's a really supportive community to just commiserate together, like shoot the shit, talk about how awful it is. And then if you have time and you can, using an app kind of like the Calm app, I really like the Calm app, or Headspace for guided meditations, especially when I have like a really bad headache or I'm like really struggling to fall asleep. I find that really helpful. So yeah, those are just some quick tips and resources that I can recommend. And honestly though, if you take anything away from this, I would say website, if you take anything away from this podcast, just take it easy and do whatever you can and do your best. And if your best looks different hour to hour, minute by minute, day by day, that's okay. Doing good enough is your best. Okay. So just take it easy, my love. Like don't stress yourself out further. Do what you can to rest and recuperate as much as you can and when you can. And I really hope that this sickness passes quickly for you and for your kids. So I really would love to hear your own tips and your stories of how you've gotten through sickness or how you've gotten through sickness with your kids. If you want to connect with me on Instagram or in the comments of this episode, I would love love to hear that from you. So thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you want to find me, you can find me at Mummas Podcast, pretty much everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. If you want to see the video version, and if you want to see my beautiful sick self, you can watch this on the video version of this episode on Spotify if you're a Spotify listener, or you can go onto my YouTube channel, which is at Mummas Podcast, and watch it there. If you don't want to see my beautiful face, that's fine by me too. Just listen to my sexy voice. But yeah, and I also have a personal Instagram that I'm active here and there on. It's at Matcha Silver. But yeah, we're gonna keep going with the winter theme right now. I'm kind of feeling that vibe, if that's all right with you. And then eventually we're gonna get back into my trying to conceive journey. So I'm excited to start on that. But I just feel like the vibe of this month is overtaking the plan that I had for how I wanted this podcast to be a little bit more linear. But honestly, this is where I'm at right now. This is how I'm feeling right now. I feel like this is what moms and parents need to hear right now. So let me know if there's anything else you would like to hear or you have any questions. I'd love to chat with you guys. Thank you so much for all the comments that you've been leaving on the episodes. I just truly love it, and I truly love hearing from you guys. And yeah, I'll see you over on my social media. But until next time, keep pouring into your own cup. Thank you, ladies. Good luck. Cheers. We did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah.